When we try to picture the Buddha, what image appears? A serene figure seated in meditation beneath a Bodhi tree? A wise teacher imparting profound truths? These glimpses capture a part of the truth, but they barely hint at the deeper mystery. The Buddha's story, passed down through millennia, suggests a being who was both profoundly human in his journey and yet extraordinary in his realization. He walked a path that defies simple categorization, blurring the lines between the human and the transcendent. He was not merely a man, nor a god as traditionally conceived, but a human being who unlocked his fullest potential, a potential that, according to his teachings, resides within us all. The mystery of the enlightened one. The narrative of the Buddha's life doesn't begin like an ordinary biography. It commences with a series of events that, while perhaps unusual to our modern sensibilities, were imbued with deep cultural and symbolic meaning in ancient India. These events, rather than being mere historical facts, serve to ignite curiosity and point towards a destiny that transcended the ordinary. Let's delve into the story of his mother, Queen Maya, a woman of renowned grace and virtue. She experienced a dream that was far from commonplace, a dream rich in symbolism. In this vision, a magnificent white elephant, a creature revered in ancient Indian culture as a symbol of purity, strength, wisdom, and untamed power, gently entered her side. Now, it's crucial to understand that dreams held a significant place in ancient Indian society. They were often seen as portals to the spiritual realm, as messages from the subconscious, or even as premonitions. This particular dream, with its vivid imagery, was interpreted by the kingdom's most learned and insightful wise men as a sign that the child Queen Maya carried was no ordinary individual. Their pronouncements were clear and unambiguous. This child was destined for greatness. He would either become a great and righteous universal monarch, a Chakravartin, uniting vast territories under his benevolent and just rule, bringing peace and prosperity to all under his dominion. Or, they said, he would tread a different path, a spiritual one, and become a fully enlightened being, a Buddha, an awakened one, a beacon of wisdom and compassion, whose light would illuminate the entire world, guiding beings out of the darkness of ignorance and suffering. It's important to note that while we, today, might view this dream through a psychological or symbolic lens, in the context of ancient India, it held profound significance. The white elephant was not merely a fantastical element, it was a powerful cultural symbol. This dream, therefore, served as a symbolic foreshadowing of an extraordinary life, a life that would impact the world in a profound way. It set the stage for a story that was far from ordinary. The birth narratives themselves, as recounted in ancient texts such as the Nidana-katha, a detailed commentary on the Jataka tales, stories of the Buddha's past lives, and the Mahapadana Sutta, a discourse attributed to the Buddha himself within the Digha Nikaya, a collection of long discourses, are also replete with symbolism and metaphorical meaning. We encounter the story of the newborn infant, Siddhartha, taking 7 deliberate steps immediately upon emerging from his mother's womb. With each step, a pristine, fragrant lotus flower, a powerful symbol of purity, beauty, and enlightenment arising from the mud of suffering and ignorance, is said to have bloomed spontaneously beneath his feet. Now, it's essential to approach this story with a nuanced perspective. While it's a captivating image, it's not necessarily meant to be taken as a literal, historical event. These 7 steps, often depicted with the blossoming lotus flowers in Buddhist art, can be more meaningfully interpreted as representing the stages of spiritual development, the gradual unfolding of wisdom, compassion, and insight. It's a powerful, evocative image that speaks to the inherent potential for awakening, for liberation, that lies dormant within each and every one of us, waiting to be realized. Further adding to the intrigue surrounding the Buddha's early life, ancient texts like the Lakkhana Sutta and the Brahmayu Sutta meticulously describe 32 unique physical characteristics, the Mahapurusha Lakshanas, or marks of a great man, that were said to be present on his body. These included features like a radiant golden hue to his skin, a long and supple tongue, a deep and resonant voice, webbed fingers and toes, and a unique protuberance on the top of his head known as the Ushnisha. It's important to remember that these texts were written centuries after the Buddha's actual life, and these descriptions may have been idealized or used symbolically to represent his inner qualities, his virtues, and his potential for greatness. In the cultural context of ancient India, such physical characteristics were believed to indicate someone destined for greatness, either as a powerful ruler or a profound spiritual leader. While these descriptions might seem unusual or even fantastical to us today, they served an important purpose in conveying the extraordinary nature of the Buddha within the framework of the prevailing cultural beliefs. The Acharya Abhuta Sutta, which translates to the Discourse on Wonderful and Marvelous Things, recounts a series of miraculous events that supposedly surrounded the Buddha's birth. These include accounts of a radiant, all-pervading light that spontaneously illuminated the entire world at the moment of his arrival, celestial music of unparalleled beauty that filled the air, and fragrant, exquisite flowers that rained down from the heavens. While these stories are undoubtedly captivating and add to the mystique surrounding the Buddha's birth, they can also be understood metaphorically as symbolic representations of the profound, transformative impact his birth had on the world. A world that, metaphorically speaking, was shrouded in the darkness of ignorance and suffering. The story of celestial beings, known as devas, beings of immense power, beauty, and longevity, who reside in higher realms of existence, bowing down in profound reverence and respect to the infant Siddhartha, as found in the Nidana Katha, can be interpreted as a recognition of his immense potential for enlightenment, a potential that was evident even from a very young age. It wasn't about worshiping a divine being in the traditional sense, but acknowledging and honoring the extraordinary qualities of a human being who was clearly on the path to awakening, a path that would ultimately lead him to Buddhahood. Teacher of gods and humans. The Buddha's sphere of influence, the reach of his teachings, extended far beyond the confines of the human realm, transcending the limitations of our earthly plane of existence. He was revered, even during his lifetime, as the Satadeva Manusanam, the teacher of gods and humans, a title that speaks volumes about the universality, the all-encompassing nature, and the boundless compassion that characterized his profound message. There are numerous accounts, such as those found in the Devaputta Samyutta, a collection of discourses within the Samyutta Nikaya, a collection of the Buddha's discourses, that detail the Buddha's interactions with deities, of him visiting celestial realms. These included places like the famed Tavatimsa heaven, paradise of immense beauty, pleasure, and longevity, ruled by the benevolent deity Sakka, who is often depicted as a devoted follower of the Buddha. Now, it's helpful to understand these celestial realms not necessarily as literal physical locations, but as allegorical representations of different levels of consciousness, different states of mind, and different stages of spiritual development that exist within us. These realms might represent the vast spectrum of human experience, from the depths of suffering to the heights of joy and bliss. The Buddha's teachings in these realms, therefore, could symbolize his ability to guide beings at all levels of spiritual development, to offer wisdom and insights that are relevant to everyone, regardless of their current state of mind or their past experiences. One of the most significant and oft-cited stories in the entire Buddhist canon, recorded in the Vinaya Pitaka, the collection of texts that outlines the monastic rules and regulations, recounts the pivotal request made by Brahma Sahampati. This Brahma is a deity of immense power, authority, and importance, considered to be one of the highest-ranking gods in the vast Buddhist cosmology. This story highlights a crucial turning point in the Buddha's journey. After his enlightenment, the Buddha initially hesitated to teach, feeling that the profound truths he had realized were too subtle and difficult for most people to grasp. It was then that Brahma Sahampati, having perceived, with his divine insight, the profound depth, the transformative power, and the universal applicability of the Buddha's awakening, his profound realization of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, humbly implored him to teach, to share his liberating insights with the world for the benefit of all beings. This story is not about a powerful God dictating to the Buddha. Instead, it emphasizes the idea that even beings considered to be highly advanced, powerful, or knowledgeable recognize the profound, unparalleled value of the Buddha's insights. Brahma Sahampati, despite his own exalted status, understood that the Buddha's teachings were too precious, too vital, too transformative to be kept hidden or confined to a select few. They needed to be shared with the world, with all beings who were ready to listen and embark on the path to awakening. This pivotal moment underscores the boundless compassion that motivated the Buddha to share his teachings with the world. Further emphasizing this point, texts like Sakka's Questions, Sakkapanha Sutta, a discourse within the Digha Nikaya, and the Brahmanimantanika Sutta, a discourse found in the Majjhima Nikaya that details a conversation between the Buddha and a proud Brahma deity, describe how celestial beings, including powerful deities like Sakka, the king of the gods, actively sought out the Buddha's guidance. They approached him with profound, searching questions about the nature of reality, the intricacies of the law of karma, the principle of cause and effect, the workings of the mind, and the precise steps on the path to liberation. These interactions can be viewed as representing the inner dialogues we have with ourselves, the deep, existential questions we grapple with about the nature of reality, our place in the universe, and the meaning of life. The Buddha's responses to these questions, as recorded in these texts, offer profound insights that can help us navigate our own inner journeys, our own quests for meaning and purpose. The Samanaphala Sutta, the discourse on the fruits of recluseship, found in the Digha Nikaya, mentions the Buddha's extraordinary ability to perceive countless world systems. While this might sound fantastical or supernatural to modern ears, it can also be interpreted as a powerful metaphor for the vastness of the human mind, its boundless potential for understanding, and its capacity for deep insight. It speaks to the interconnectedness of all things, a concept that is central to Buddhist thought and increasingly validated by modern science. The Buddha's role as a teacher to both humans and gods emphasizes that his message was for everyone, regardless of their background, their beliefs, their social status, or their past actions. His teachings weren't about dogma, blind faith, or adherence to rigid rules. They were about understanding the fundamental nature of suffering, its causes, and its cessation. He offered a practical path to liberation, a path that was not predetermined or imposed from the outside, but a journey of self-discovery, a journey that began with a human being named Siddhartha Gautama. It was through his own struggles, his own relentless investigation of the nature of reality, and his own profound insights that he became the Buddha, the awakened one. His life demonstrates that awakening is not something reserved for a select few. It is a potential that resides within each and every one of us. We all have the capacity to transcend our limitations, to overcome suffering, and to discover our true nature, our inherent potential for wisdom and compassion. This is the essence of the Buddha's story. A story that is both deeply human and profoundly extraordinary. A story that continues to inspire, challenge, and guide people around the world today, more than 1,600 years after his passing. Powers beyond ordinary understanding. The Buddhist texts describe the Buddha as possessing what are known as abhinya, often translated as higher knowledges, supernormal powers, or direct knowledges. These abilities, meticulously detailed in texts like the Samanaphala Sutta, the fruits of the contemplative life, included capacities such as the ability to read minds, Sito Pariya Jnana, recollect past lives, Pubanavasanusati Jnana, perceive things beyond the range of ordinary senses, such as the arising and passing away of beings according to their karma, Kutupapata Jnana, and the knowledge of the destruction of the taints, Asavakaya Jnana, which is synonymous with enlightenment itself. Now, it's all too easy to get swept up in the seemingly miraculous nature of these powers, to view them as supernatural feats that set the Buddha apart from ordinary human beings. However, to do so would be to miss the profound point that these texts are making about the nature of the mind, the potential of consciousness, and the transformative power of spiritual practice. It's crucial to understand these powers within the context of Buddhist thought, as byproducts of deep meditative practice, not as ends in themselves. These abhinya were not seen as magical abilities to be acquired for personal gain, for the purpose of impressing others, or for manipulating the world. Instead, they were considered to be natural consequences of a mind that had been meticulously purified, concentrated, and refined through rigorous training in ethical conduct, mental discipline, samadhi, and wisdom, prajna. They were indicators of profound mental development, natural expressions of a mind that had been freed from the shackles of greed, hatred, and delusion. They were not about gaining power over the external world, but about achieving mastery over one's own internal landscape. The Kavada Sutta, within the Digha Nikaya, makes the Buddha's view on this matter abundantly clear. He explicitly stated that he did not consider these powers to be the essence of enlightenment or the core of his teachings. Instead, he emphasized that true liberation arises from wisdom, from a deep, experiential understanding of the Four Noble Truths, the nature of reality, the causes of suffering, and the path to its cessation. It is wisdom, not supernatural abilities, that sets one free. To better grasp this concept, consider an analogy. When you dedicate yourself to training your body intensely, consistently, and intelligently, you might develop exceptional levels of strength, flexibility, endurance, or agility. These physical abilities, while perhaps extraordinary in comparison to those of an untrained individual, are natural consequences of dedicated practice. They are not magical. They are the result of consistent effort and the application of correct principles. In a comparable way, when you train your mind diligently and systematically through practices like mindfulness meditation, loving-kindness meditation, and other forms of mental cultivation, you begin to develop heightened levels of awareness, profound concentration, unwavering equanimity, and deep, penetrating insights into the workings of your own mind and, by extension, the minds of others. These abilities, while they may appear extraordinary to those who have not undertaken such training, are natural consequences of dedicated mental cultivation. They arise from understanding the nature of the mind, its tendencies, its patterns, and its potential. The stories of the Buddha reading minds, for instance, can be interpreted not as literal telepathy, but as demonstrations of his profound empathy, his highly developed emotional intelligence, and his penetrating understanding of human psychology. He was able to perceive, with remarkable accuracy, the underlying emotions, motivations, intentions, and thought patterns that drove people's actions. This wasn't about some magical ability to intrude on people's private thoughts. It was about a deep, compassionate, and insightful understanding of the human condition, an understanding that had been honed through years of meticulous self-observation, mindful attention to his own mental processes, and compassionate observation of the behavior and mental states of others. Accounts of him recalling past lives can be viewed not necessarily as literal, historical accounts of previous incarnations, but as a powerful and evocative way of illustrating the fundamental Buddhist concept of karma, the intricate and far-reaching principle of cause and effect that extends far beyond the confines of a single human lifetime. These stories weren't meant to be taken as factual records of past events. They were profound teaching tools, skillfully employed to illustrate how our actions, driven by our intentions, have consequences that ripple through time, shaping not only our present circumstances but also our future experiences, creating a continuous cycle of cause and effect. Breaking the boundaries of existence. The Buddha's teachings extended far beyond the realm of ordinary human experience, delving into the very fabric of existence itself, challenging conventional notions of reality and revealing the profound interconnectedness of all things. He spoke of a continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, a cycle known as samsara that is driven by craving, ignorance, aversion, and attachment. This cycle, a fundamental concept in Buddhist philosophy, is not about a literal unchanging soul or self transmigrating from one physical body to another, like changing clothes. Rather, it's about the continuity of consciousness, the ongoing, ever-changing stream of experience that is shaped and conditioned by our actions, our intentions, and our mental states, moment by moment, lifetime by lifetime. The Buddha's purported ability to recall countless past lives, as mentioned in the Samanaphala Sutta and other texts, can be understood as a profound and penetrating insight into this cyclical nature of existence, an awareness of the vast expanse of time and the intricate web of cause and effect that spans across lifetimes. It wasn't about boasting of past glories or claiming special status based on previous incarnations. It was about demonstrating, through vivid narrative, the long and arduous journey that each individual consciousness undertakes on the path to liberation, the path to freedom from suffering. It was about understanding the deep roots of suffering, how our present experiences are conditioned by past actions, and the immense, sustained effort that is required to break free from the grip of this seemingly endless cycle. He also taught about realms of existence that lie beyond our ordinary human perception, realms described in vivid detail in texts like the Devadatta Sutta, the Heavenly Messengers, and the Tirakuta Sutta, hungry shades outside the wall. These realms, which range from heavenly paradises of unimaginable bliss and pleasure to hellish states of intense suffering and torment, are not necessarily to be interpreted as literal physical locations existing somewhere out there in the vast expanse of the cosmos. Instead, they can be more fruitfully understood as representations of different states of mind, different qualities of experience that arise directly from our actions, our intentions, and our mental habits. They are powerful allegories for the consequences of our choices, the fruits of our karma, both positive and negative. They illustrate, in a dramatic and memorable way, how our actions create our reality, both internally and externally. The stories of the Buddha conversing with beings from these different realms, engaging in dialogues with deities, spirits, and other non-human entities, can be interpreted as symbolic representations of his ability to understand, address, and alleviate the suffering that exists at all levels of experience in all states of mind. He wasn't just concerned with the problems, the suffering, and the liberation of human beings. He recognized that suffering is a universal phenomenon, experienced in various forms and intensities throughout the vast, multifaceted expanse of existence. Ultimately, this exploration of realms beyond our ordinary understanding was not about escaping from reality or seeking refuge in fantasy in some imagined afterlife. It was about facing the truth of our existence here and now, understanding the nature of suffering in all its forms, and discovering the path to liberation that is available to us in this very life, in this very moment. It was about recognizing that true freedom, true liberation, comes not from changing our external circumstances, from seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, but from transforming our inner world, from freeing our minds from the shackles of craving, aversion, ignorance, and delusion. The Buddha's teachings on these profound matters were not presented as dogma, as a set of rigid beliefs to be accepted blindly on faith. They were, and are, invitations to explore, to investigate, to question, and to discover the truth for ourselves through our own direct experience, through our own diligent practice of ethical conduct, mental discipline, and the cultivation of wisdom. They were a clarion call to awaken to the reality of our interconnectedness, to the profound, boundless potential that lies dormant within each and every one of us to break free from the cycle of suffering, to realize our true nature, a nature that is inherently free, boundless, filled with wisdom, compassion, and unconditional love. This is the heart of the Buddha's message, a message that transcends the limitations of our ordinary understanding, that challenges our conventional notions of reality, and that points us towards a reality that is far more vast, profound, liberating, and ultimately more real than we could ever imagine. Being of perfect wisdom. One of the defining characteristics that distinguished the Buddha was his attainment of perfect wisdom, a profound and penetrating insight into the nature of reality. It's important to understand that this wasn't about being omniscient, all-knowing in the sense of having access to every single piece of information in the vast, ever-expanding universe. The Buddha himself clarified his perspective on this matter in the Anguttara Nikaya and 424, stating that his knowledge was intentionally and purposefully directed towards what was essential for liberation, for the cessation of suffering, not towards knowing everything about everything, a task that is both impossible and ultimately irrelevant to the goal of awakening. His wisdom was fundamentally about understanding the fundamental truths of human existence, the nature of suffering, dukkha, its underlying causes, samudaya, its ultimate cessation, nirodha, and the practical path leading to its cessation, magga. These are the Four Noble Truths, the cornerstone, the very foundation of his teachings. It was about seeing reality as it truly is, in its raw, unfiltered form, free from the distortions, the biases, the projections, the desires, and the delusions that typically cloud our perception. When confronted with metaphysical questions, inquiries about the origin or ultimate destiny of the universe, the existence or nature of a soul or self after death, or other speculative matters that were popular topics of debate among philosophers of his time, the Buddha often chose to remain silent. Or he would skillfully redirect the conversation towards what he considered to be far more important and immediately relevant: the practice of the path leading to the end of suffering, here and now. This approach is exemplified in several discourses, including those found in the Majjhima Nikaya. Instead of getting entangled in debates about the existence of a permanent self, for example, he would guide the questioner towards an examination of their own experience, encouraging them to investigate the 5 aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness that make up what we conventionally call a self. Through this process of self-inquiry, he aimed to demonstrate that these aggregates are impermanent, constantly changing, and not worthy of being identified with as a permanent, unchanging self. This insight, he taught, was crucial for liberation. His silence or redirection on these matters was not an indication of ignorance or an evasion of difficult questions. Rather, it was a strategic pedagogical approach, a skillful means, upaya, employed to guide his disciples towards what truly mattered: liberation from suffering. He saw that engaging in such abstract, speculative debates often led to intellectual confusion, endless arguments, and a reinforcement of the very ego attachment that he sought to help people overcome. It was like debating the medical properties of a cure while the disease continued to ravage the body. This doesn't mean that the Buddha dismissed intellectual inquiry altogether. He valued reason, logic, and careful investigation. However, he emphasized the importance of focusing that inquiry on what truly matters, on what is truly conducive to liberation. He encouraged a pragmatic approach, one that prioritizes direct experience and practical application over abstract theorizing. His teachings were designed to be experiential, to be put into practice, not merely to be discussed or debated. He adapted his teachings to the individual needs, capacities, and levels of understanding of his listeners, as illustrated in the simile of the lotus, SN 2294. Just as a lotus grows in muddy water but rises above it to bloom in its full glory, unsoiled by the mud, the Buddha's teachings were designed to help individuals rise above their own suffering, their own confusion, their own ignorance, and realize their full potential, regardless of their background, their past actions, or their current circumstances. His wisdom was not a static body of inert knowledge, but a dynamic, ever-deepening, ever-evolving understanding of reality, an understanding that he constantly refined, updated, and shared with others through his teachings and his actions. It was a practical wisdom, a wisdom that could be applied to the challenges and opportunities of everyday life, a wisdom that could transform suffering into peace, confusion into clarity, and ignorance into profound insight. It was a wisdom born not of intellectual speculation, but of direct experience, of deep meditation, and of a profound understanding of the human condition. This is the essence of the Buddha's perfect wisdom, a wisdom that continues to illuminate the path to liberation for countless beings throughout the world. The path from human to awakened being. The Buddha's journey was not a predetermined path from birth to enlightenment. He started as an ordinary human being, Siddhartha Gautama, a prince shielded from the harsh realities of life. It was his encounter with suffering, in the form of sickness, old age, and death, that sparked his spiritual quest. This quest was not a passive acceptance of his destiny, but an active, determined search for a solution to the problem of suffering. The story of his transformation, as detailed in texts like the Anguttara Nikaya, AN 381, and the Buddhavamsa, is a testament to the power of human effort and perseverance. It is a gradual path, a path of ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom, developed not just in one lifetime, but over countless lifetimes, as illustrated in the Jataka tales. These stories of his past lives are not meant to be taken as literal historical accounts, but as allegories for the gradual development of the qualities necessary for enlightenment: generosity, compassion, patience, wisdom, and determination. What makes the Buddha's story so inspiring is that it's a story of human potential, a potential that exists within each and every one of us. He demonstrated that anyone, regardless of their background or circumstances, can follow this path to awakening. It's not about being born special or having inherent advantages. It's about making the effort, cultivating the necessary qualities, and diligently practicing the path. His final words, as recorded in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, DN 16, Apamadena Sampaditha, often translated as "strive on with diligence," are a powerful reminder that liberation is not something that is given to us. It is something that we must earn through our own efforts. It's a call to action, an exhortation to take responsibility for our own spiritual development. The Buddha's life is a testament to the transformative power of the human spirit. He showed us that it is possible to break free from the cycle of suffering, to awaken to our true nature, and to live a life of peace, wisdom, and compassion. His story is not just a story about a historical figure who lived thousands of years ago. It's a story about the potential that lies within each of us, a potential that we can realize if we are willing to make the effort and follow the path that he laid out for us. It's a story of hope, a story of liberation, a story that continues to inspire and guide people around the world to this day. This is the essence of the middle way, a path that embraces both our human limitations and our boundless potential for awakening.